The African Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens, WACCBIP, was established in 2014 as one of the World Bank's Africa Centers of Excellence. WACCBIP is located on the campus of the University of Ghana, Legon.
WACCBIP was established as one of the World Bank African Centers of Excellence. And the inspiration behind it is basically that a number of us who were at the Department of Biochemistry and the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research, we had trained outside, and we did PhDs in various science disciplines outside the country. When we got back and realized that there was not much by way of facilities to train scientists, we saw this as an opportunity to create an environment which would enable many young scientists to get the opportunity to get the quality of training that we got overseas.
This world-class research center started off as an infectious disease center, but along the line, it's added non-communicable diseases to its focus areas.
WACCBIP is providing something to local and regional students that we probably don't have in many places within the country or within the region. Facilities, financial resources, as well as an environment that encourages student learning and research. And that has significantly increased students' output in the Department of Biochemistry, Cell and Molecular Biology.
WACCBIP has a whole range of collaborators at the institutional, national, regional, and international levels. These collaborations include the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research, Ghana, the Department of Biomedical Sciences at the University of Ghana, among other departments, the Ghana Health Service, and the Ministry of Health. The center also has collaborations with institutions within and outside Africa.
Currently, there are about 6 labs in the center, and these labs do research based on the faculty who is in charge of these labs. We have a malaria group that has 3 different units. There's an immunology unit, there's a vaccine development unit, and also a transmission unit in there. We also have a molecular biology lab that has 2 faculty in charge there. One does work with African animal trypanosomes, and the other one, who is myself, works in pleural and antimicrobial resistance. We have a huge virology group. They do research, anything that has to do with viruses. So they do HIV research. They even look at some bat viruses and gastroenteric viruses. More recently too, we've added a COVID lab, and this lab does routine testing for COVID positivity and negativity. And we also look for seroprevalence across the population. So people who have been prior exposed to COVID but maybe have been asymptomatic, so they don't know whether they had COVID or not. And we've actually just recently published a paper on our findings.
The virology laboratory of WACCBIP was set up right from the beginning with one main lab, and they were doing things like rotaviral, researching into rotaviral infections in Ghana. The virology lab at WACCBIP was also involved in the first identification of a dengue case in Ghana, and also doing HIV research, as well as research on viruses which are in bats, but which might be have a risk of causing disease in humans. So these are filoviruses, the same type of viruses that cause Ebola. So that's work that was being done.
The center currently has 6 research laboratories, namely the Cell Biology and Immunology Lab, commonly known as the Malaria Lab, the Molecular Biology Lab, the Virology Lab, the Medicinal and Natural Products Lab, the Next Generation Sequencing Lab, and the Forensic Biochemistry Lab. At WACCBIP, the scientific tools and equipment are always and readily available to students, regardless of the courses being studied at the center.
Really, the driving force was to try to create a world-class research and training environment where young African scientists from across the continent can come here and develop their talent and do high-quality research that can be comparable to research that's done in any part of the world. So basically, that was the vision that we were pursuing.
Throughout my academic journey, I'd always looked for opportunities to come back home. My plan has always been to establish myself, to spend my most productive, my most useful years in Africa and hopefully in Ghana. So even though I studied abroad altogether for 13 years, followed by 6 years as a postdoc also abroad. So altogether, I was away from Ghana for about 18 years. I was always looking for opportunities to return. So during my second postdoc, I actually met Professor Wandare, the director of WACCBIP, in London when he came to actually receive an award. And that was the first time I heard about WACCBIP. And so hearing about WACCBIP, hearing what Professor Wandare was trying to do in Ghana, I felt that it was a place that would welcome someone like me, a place that someone like me potentially could thrive. So I began to look for opportunities to return, and I was able to get funding to support my return to Ghana, and so applied for a position and was appointed as a research fellow. It was basically a fulfillment of something I'd always wanted to do, and WACCBIP stood out as a place that, even though it was a young center, was led by somebody who himself was very dynamic, who identified a lot of the ideals that I myself identify with, and so was somebody that I felt I could work for, somebody that could mentor me.
WACCBIP has evolved to become a world-class research center thriving on initial funding from the World Bank and subsequent support from the Wellcome Trust and the Africa Academy of Science.
We were very fortunate to get the funding through World Bank to establish the Center of Excellence here. And part of that funding gave us a huge chunk of money to buy core equipment that could be used and shared by all faculty in the department and opened up to faculty within the university and within the sub-region. We have a core facility for flow cytometry. We also have a core facility for sequencing of DNA. Just recently, we've even upgraded it to include a NextSeq Illumina sequencer, which is probably one of two in the entire Africa. And that has the capacity to sequence both DNA and RNA, which is world-class. We have a confocal microscope core facility, which can be used to take images of cells and for us to understand actual cell biology as it happens in real time. We also make the protein expression lab that I talked about, and we have state-of-the-art equipment in these laboratories that help us, again, make proteins, express proteins, and take it to the next level of trying to identify what these proteins actually do within cells.
Since I've been in the virology department, I've been doing mostly HIV research, that's my specialty, looking at how the different genotypes we have in Ghana affect the ability of treatment and the progression of the disease. And of course, since the pandemic, we have been right at the forefront of doing research of SARS-CoV-2, that's the virus that causes COVID-19 in Ghana. The HIV research that we've done here at Virology, prior to my coming, there's been some findings that in the Ghanaian population, some of the genes that may be involved in progression are deleted in some of the population. Actually, a few of my colleagues did that work. And since I've been here, we've been looking at the new drug which has been introduced in Ghana, dolutegravir, and our data, which is yet to be published, is showing that it is one of the best drugs to be used, and we are also selecting some mutations for this drug.
My experience in WACCBIP here has been very great. I came here in 2014. So after my undergraduate, I joined the lab in 2015 and I served as a research assistant. When I entered, I didn't know anything about research, but I've got opportunity through mentorship and training. I've had great experience here. Sure, I think there's fairness in the enrollment process. For what I know, I was fortunate after my first year master's, I was enrolled into the PhD program. Then what I have seen so far, I realized before you get admission to the program, you write in exams and they try to balance, look at gender balance and also the international and the local students. So there's fairness in the selection process. So my PhD thesis or project seeks to develop novel diagnoses for detecting Plasmodium species. So Plasmodium species are parasite that causes malaria, and currently we have RDTs and microscopy at the point of care for detecting these species. But unfortunately, these tools are not sensitive or specific enough for detecting these species. So there are more reliable tools, which are the PCR or molecular-based diagnostic tools. And if I can give you an example, that's what we are using to detect COVID now. But the unfortunate thing is these tools are not readily available in terms of the reagent. So my project seeks to develop these reagents here in Ghana so that we can make them readily available and also cost-effective for detecting infectious diseases.
The center runs 3 programs at the master's level, which includes Master of Philosophy in Molecular Cell Biology of Cell and Infectious Diseases, Master of Philosophy in Biochemistry, and Master of Philosophy in Molecular Biology. The PhD level includes PhD in Biochemistry and PhD in Molecular and Cell Biology of Infectious Diseases. The center also engages the community in its activities from time to time.
What was of common interest to all of us was that we wanted to create a world-class research and training environment to do basic science. Now, this was led by me, but with support from, several colleagues here at the Department of Biochemistry and also at the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research. In terms of the resources we need sustainable funding, predictable funding. If you look at all the countries that have developed, they have predictable funding for research and for science. If you look at the USA, they have something called the NIH, which they pump billions and billions of dollars in every year as part of their national budget. It's locked in. Ghana, we still don't have that. We've been talking about a research and innovation bill for a long time. Still not been enacted. We need to have such things so that we as scientists, there's a fund that we can apply to access funds to do research and to innovate on a sustainable basis. As we say it, we compete for funds from overseas, and that is not predictable nor sustainable because a lot of the funders, they keep asking us, how much is your government contributing? Okay, we've given you 8 million, we've given you 6 million, we've given you 5 million. How much is your government contributing?
Everybody knows that Africa has problems. Our problems are all over the news. We get offended when people point out only the problems. But it's also very clear that the only people who will solve Africa's problems are Africans themselves. We are waiting for malaria vaccines to be developed in Europe and North America for us to use. We are waiting for people, for President Jimmy Carter to come and eradicate guinea worm in Ghana. If Africa and in Ghana is going to achieve what I believe and we all believe we can achieve, we have to take responsibility for our problems and come up with locally relevant solutions to solve those problems. For me, WACCBIP represents a place that is trying to do its bit to contribute towards this. We are trying to train the next generation of scientists, not to come and work at WACCBIP. We are training the next generation of scientists to think of ways to solve problems they see in their own communities.
International students are helped through WACCBIP to obtain accommodation. And basically what we do is that we liaise with the hostels and the halls on campus and arrange some of the rooms for them before they actually come in. At WACCBIP, we provide at least 2 forms of scholarship. One, from the ACE World Bank grant, and the other from the Delta's program.
Because we are in the tropics, a lot of patients report to the hospitals with high temperature. This is usually attributed to malaria, but we found out that malaria answers, let's say, 40% of those cases. For the other 60%, they are presumptively treated as malaria. And in most cases, the patients keep going back because it's not malaria. So what else is causing it? It's not clearly known. And the diagnostic systems in the hospitals are not advanced enough to take care of a variety of disease conditions. So this project was undertaken by one Nicholas, who looked at a whole panel of pathogens. So this was a discovery project. Okay, so once a child reports with fever and it's not attributed to anything else but the infection, and they check for malaria and malaria is not there, they then take those samples and look for all manner of pathogens. Okay, and they were able to discover a whole variety of viruses and bacterial pathogens that explain those other febrile illness. So going forward, that would, instruct a new way of attending to patients in that category, so that we can. What we haven't done is to develop diagnostics that can be used in the hospitals, but that is the next phase that we can look at. The second is diagnostic technologies that have been developed by two PhD students, Francis Krampa and Felix Ansa. So here they are looking for electronic ways of detecting malaria. Okay, so what we have in the system right now is glucometer. You put a drop of blood and it tells you the level of glucose in your blood. We are trying to do the same for malaria, so that people can even test at home, right, and not have to go to the hospital when this becomes available on the market. The third one is a project that concerns a new way of developing antibiotics, and what we are trying to do is to target what we call the genome stability of pathogens. This has not been done before, and we are pioneering that from this center for the first time. And we're hoping that over the years we will make progress that will lead to the next generation of antibiotics.
The first output that we had from our sequencing was a manuscript which was published, and that was the first 46 sequences of SARS-CoV-2 in Ghana. We published that last year, and since then we've done almost 1,000 sequences. So we are preparing that also to publish it. And why that is important is we are tracking basically the changes in the virus locally, because there's, if you look at literature or the news, you see how it's changing globally, but you have to know the local outbreak, you have to know the local epidemic. And what we see in Ghana is that sometimes the variants which are increasing are not necessarily what is increasing in the rest of the world. For now, for instance, we have Delta, which is also on the rise in Ghana. But there's another variant which is nobody's talking about, but it's rising almost faster than Delta in Ghana. So that's the sort of things that we do. And when we get the results, we write what we call policy briefs, advising the government that this is what we found. Earlier on in this year, when we did our sequencing of airport samples, and we first found the Alpha variant, that's the UK variant. And then we found it in local circulation, and we wrote we communicated to the government. And that was what led to the reinstatement of some of the restrictions, like restricting the funeral size, party size, and things like that. That was as a direct result of the work that we're doing.
The key message that we want to put out there is that Africa has a lot of talent. If you look across the world, there are African scientists doing great things all over the place. Some of these COVID vaccines that we are seeing, African scientists played key roles in developing them so quickly in different countries. If we create the right environment for them, a lot of these people will come back home. We have already brought 7 scientists, African scientists who were in the diaspora, we brought them here. And the reason why they were able to come back, or they were convinced to come back, is because they came and looked around, like you guys have looked around, and they saw that they can do good science here, and that this environment looks like where they've been working in the UK or in the US, and they are convinced that this is world-class enough. If we create that, we can start to bring all our talent back, and Africa can start to develop our own vaccines, can develop our own drugs, we can be more innovative and build new technologies that we can even export to other parts of the world, and not sit as we are now waiting for people to develop vaccines, use for their people. When they have had enough, then they share with us. That's where we are now. Okay? That situation has to change. That means we have to take matters into our own hands. That means the African governments have to start to put some money into science on a consistent basis. Let's have a fund, such as we have National Health Insurance Fund, we have GET Fund, we have all these funds that a percentage of the taxes goes directly into that fund every year. So that fund is available for scientists to access. Let's do that. Let's put some money aside for science, because this type of investment have to be done for us to develop. Otherwise, we keep marking time. We keep just treading water. Because if you keep relying on people for your innovations, that means you are not making progress. You know, I keep telling people that if you think about investment in science, think about it like the way we invested in petroleum exploration. You know, ever since I was a child, I was hearing about GMPC spending billions and billions of dollars doing oil exploration. Okay, they didn't find oil until just maybe 10 years ago or less. After spending billions and billions of dollars, nobody complained that they were spending billions of dollars, because they knew that when they found oil, they'll get a lot of money from it. It's the same with science. Don't think about what you'll get tomorrow. You know, don't say that, oh, I've given you 200,000, so what have you brought after 2 weeks? No, it doesn't work that way. It has to be consistent investment over time. And then when you succeed, it will pay for itself. Okay? If we made a vaccine right now, can you imagine if we had a COVID vaccine and we're supplying to the whole of Africa? Can you imagine how much money Ghana will be making? But if you don't invest, you won't get. You won't get there. So you have to invest, and then eventually you will hit the jackpot.
If there is any biomedical research center that promotes innovation and research, or that provides its students with unmatched financial resources and an environment for learning and research, it is the West Africa Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens, WACCBIP, providing world-class postgraduate training and research into tropical diseases in sub-Saharan Africa.